tell us about your upbringing, because your story is not really of one from rags to riches. You come from a wealthy family in Nigeria.
Well, I came from wealthy family. My grandfather was my great-grandfather from my mother's side was actually very, very wealthy, Alassane Tata. And then his son, also Sanusi Tata, whom really raised me up because, I lost my dad at the age of 8. And, so after educating me, he gave me a loan of which I was grateful, and I paid back in 3 months, because business was so good. And, I was able to establish myself from the trading to, manufacturing, and now to a lot of daring things, like right. Refinery, the agricultural process that we're doing, and also the, fertilizer.
Right. As you say, your business spans a lot of different sectors: cement, flour, salt.
Yes.
Let me just ask you this: why commodities in a country like Nigeria, where oil is king? Why not get into the oil business right away?
Well, you see, at first, really, what we thought of doing as a company, we said that, look, let us work very, very hard and get there first. Because if we had followed that trend of dealing in oil, would have actually tainted our name, that name, because, yes, the household name, because people will always think that, look, you have made this much money because you did a lot of unethical deals in oil industry, because you know the story of the oil industry. So we actually kept out of oil at all and just concentrated on food items.
As you mentioned, you're going up the food chain now, getting into energy, and in particular oil and gas refining. Nigeria has a lot of oil, but not a lot of refined gas, and it has to import most of the motor fuel and fossil fuel.
Yeah, more than 90%.
Of course, and a lot of people feel that Africa could grow a lot faster with more of its own refinery capacity. So tell us about this project that you've started, and also, how tough is it going to be for you? I mean, it must be very challenging, because you're going to be competing against the European, the Chinese, and the American companies who are all elbowing each other to satisfy Africa's energy needs.
What we're going to do now, really, we're going to do 500,000 barrels. It was 400,000, but we're upped it now to 500,000 barrels of oil refining per day. Then petrochemical of polypropylene of 750,000. Metric tons. I know that, yes, it's very, very challenging, but that's what we like. In Dangote Group, we like challenging things, and we like to make sure that we do things where we'll make our country proud and also self-sufficient. So once we do this, Nigeria will never ever import any oil at all. No petroleum products, zero. We'll meet up the full capacity, and we've taken up a land that will allow us to grow 3 times. So we have plans of also further growth. But the challenges, I think, will be able to surmount most of them, because, number one, we're a local domesticated refinery. So most of the logistics cost will not be there. And then we don't have to pile up a lot of petroleum products, in stock, because the refinery is there, it's working. Obviously, yes, maybe we'll have about 15, 20 days of reserves, but that's it.
Let me talk about the foreign investment in this country, in China in particular. China's presence on the African continent is huge. China has ramped up its investments in Africa. Is China's presence, in your opinion, a win-win for Africa, as they put it?
I think it is a win-win situation. We happen to deal with a lot of African, Chinese companies, and we've been doing very well as contractors. But I see most of what is happening, the Chinese are coming here mainly for mineral resources, for what they need. But setting up local domestic industries, I'm not really seeing Chinese people participating in local domestic industries. They are very big in construction, they are very big in providing infrastructure, but really bringing foreign direct investment, they are not as much as the Europeans.
Because a lot of African businessmen, especially at the local level, complain about the Chinese competition.
Well, they complain about maybe different competition in the sense of maybe smuggling of textiles, for example, in Nigeria, because they don't have textiles here, but they are smuggling it in here, where they have killed most of our domestic local textile industries. But participating in the real economy, I've not really seen Chinese doing much there.
Why do you think Africa can succeed without relying on the foreign investments like the Chinese investment and the
Well,
European?
Africa,
Can they really do it? Because
nobody can do that. You see, what we need to do as Africans, first of all, is to show that confidence that yes, it is possible. It can be done, and then the foreign investors will follow suit. There is nowhere on earth where foreign investors will go and create an economy or make that economy great. No. The local people must move first. Right. When they move first, then they will be supported by the foreign investors.
The richest man in Africa for the 4th year in a row, Aliko Dangote, 23rd on Forbes' rich list around the world. How does it feel being so in a continent which is, for the most part, still afflicted by poverty?
Well, it feels a little bit odd, yes, it's true, but then it gives you a lot of thinking and responsibilities. You say, okay, fine, what do I do to impact humanity? And that's why we do quite a lot in terms of our foundation. We spend average of about $100 million in Dangote Foundation, which we set up in 1993. And then again, I've just did additional endowment to the foundation, which was $1.25 billion. With that, yes, we do that on the philanthropic side. But then, in terms of creating of jobs, we now have this farm which we have developed. I mean, we're doing almost about 120,000 hectares of rice land, and then we are doing 260,000 hectares of sugar, which we are targeting to do 1.5 million tons of sugar in the next 5 years. This will create 180,000 jobs.
So you feel like you're giving back, you're doing enough?
Well, we're giving back because we're creating quite a lot of jobs. We're not doing like other Africans where most of the money is in the bank. Right. We don't keep any money in the bank. Whatever we have, we fully invest, and we keep on investing. And that's what we do.
Let me ask you something a bit more personal. How do you stay grounded? I mean, you seem like a very simple and humble man. Usually in Africa, when people are rich, they tend to flaunt it. I speak here from experience. How do you stay grounded?
Which experience did you?
I wasn't rich, unfortunately. But from the different things that I've seen around the continent, even when it comes to the leaders of the African continent.
I think really tell you the truth, my upbringing from my late grandfather really helped me quite a lot. He was a very, very humble person, and sometimes he used to drive himself. And that's what I do now, even on weekends right now. Once I finish this interview with you, I won't go out with the driver. I'm going to go alone, and I'm going to drive myself. I mean, I feel safe, and really, I don't have any issues, with that. It's always better to be humble. They say that no condition is permanent. So I want to always run my life, whether I have money or I don't have money, I can run it, and it's true. I'm sure your life is more expensive to run than mine.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm sure.
Nigeria